Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we will be talking about the current polling lead that Kamala Harris, the vice president and now presumptive Democratic nominee for president in 2024, has in the national popular vote and how that would play out on the electoral map if her lead held to election day. Now, currently, right now, in the average of the most recent polls, Kamala Harris has a lead of 1.5% nationwide over Donald Trump. Now, this is a huge reverse from when Joe Biden was the presumptive Democratic nominee. He was down, some 3 or 4 points usually in the national vote, which would have just meant an absolute disaster for Democrats in November. So obviously, Kamala Harris making this race a lot closer, but she still doesn't win with a 1.5% lead, and we'll see why. The popular vote is one thing. This is a popular vote average of polls. She leads the popular vote nationwide by 1.5%. But the presidency isn't decided by the popular vote. It is decided by the Electoral College vote. Hillary Clinton won the most votes in 2016 over Donald Trump. She won the popular vote. Al Gore won the popular vote in 2000, and there have been even more examples in the past. So that is something that we look at always in elections because, of course, it's important to see where the mood of the country is, but it doesn't actually translate into who wins the presidency. Now, what we know about presidential elections, the most recent ones, that is that the Democrats, it looks like they have to win the popular vote by somewhere around 2% or more to win a majority of votes in the Electoral College. So a 1.5%, obviously it's possible that they could get it, depending on where they put their time, money, and resources and the type of campaign they run. Obviously, Kamala Harris can win. I mean, she can win even by losing the popular vote, right? And she could still win. That's still possible, but it is highly unlikely, and what we know about presidential elections tells us that Kamala Harris will have to win by at least 2% in the popular vote. So I don't think right now that she would win that. Now, I mean, also, we're just going to go off of this poll, but we also do have to always consider the fact that, Joe Biden won, or these were the polls right before Election Day, the popular vote nationwide. The polls on average said that Biden would win by 8.4%, and he only won by, a 4.5%. But that 4.5 will be critical because that is the popular vote margin that Joe Biden won by in the 2020 election, 4.5%. So when you look at, Wisconsin, for example, they voted about 4 points to the right of the nation. So if Kamala Harris is leading the nation now by 1.5, and Wisconsin is, once again, like it was in 2020, voting 4 points to the right of the nation, then Donald Trump would come out on top. So this is just a hypothetical election scenario. If, one, the national polls held up and Kamala Harris did win the popular vote by 1.5%, but what exactly that translates to on the electoral map. So obviously every state that that Donald Trump won by a safe margin, in the 2020 election will once again be safe. These safe states are states that were decided by a 15% margin or more for their respective candidate, and as I said, Kamala Harris is up by 1.5 in this scenario, and Biden won by 4.5. So the whole nation is shifting about 3 points to the right. That is basically what this election scenario is. So Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska's 3rd District, Nebraska's at-large, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. Those, as well as West Virginia. Those were all the safe states. And then as for Joe Biden, he wins the vast majority of them by the safe margin. But I mean, there are some examples where that differs. For example, again, 4.5% is that number, right, that Joe Biden won by. So looking at New Jersey, they voted for Biden by 16%. So that was 12.5%. Oh my gosh, I can't speak today. 10.5% to the left of the nation, right? 10.5% more Democratic. It's actually 11.5%. 11.5% more Democratic than the nation as a whole. So if Hillary, oh my gosh, wow, okay. If Kamala Harris is now leading by 1.5, then we can expect Kamala Harris to win by somewhere like 13. So that wouldn't quite be a safe margin, but the vast majority of these states are, all the states that I am filling in, would be safe. But New Jersey is not, Oregon is not, just because Hawaii is. Illinois is not, because these were on the verge of being likely states in 2020, but they weren't quite there. And then Washington, D.C. is, of course, safe for Kamala Harris. So now we get into likely states. These states are a bit closer. So let's just go through the electoral map. So first of all, you've got Texas, which voted for Trump by 5.6. Again, 4.5, that's the magic number that Biden won the popular vote by in 2020. So in 2020, Texas voted for Donald Trump voted Republican about 10 points more than the nation as a whole, right? 5.6 to 4.5. That's 10 points more Republican than the nation as a whole. So Kamala Harris leading by 1.5. That means that Donald Trump would now win by somewhere like 8.5% this time around, which would make Texas once again a likely state. Kansas and Nebraska's first district become safe because they were almost safe in 2020, and they do trend a bit to the right. You've got South Carolina, which voted for Trump by 11.7. That's, about 15 points to the right of the nation. So that would just be under a safe margin, almost likely, but just under. Or it is likely almost a safe margin. Then you got Iowa, voted for Trump by 8.2. That's about 12.7% to the right of the nation. Subtract that 1.5% lead that Kamala Harris has, and that is well into likely margin territory. You've got Ohio, which was 12.5% to the right of the nation. Once again, very much a likely state, almost safe, but you can see how much these states are trending just right off the bat. You've got Maine second. That was about 9% to the right of the nation in 2020. Kamala Harris, Trump ends up winning by 6.5%. So that one does narrow up, actually. And then you've got the state of Florida. Now this one's interesting because of how much it is shifting to the right. But Florida voted for Donald Trump by 3.4% in 2020, which was 5% to the right of the nation. 5%. 4.5%. That was 8%, 7.9%, 8% we'll call it, to the right of the nation. And then when you subtract Kamala's lead of 1.5 nationwide, that gives you a 6.5% margin for Trump in Florida, making it a likely state. No longer very competitive. And you can just see, how states like Florida, Texas, that, some time ago looked somewhat competitive, especially in 2020, just now really aren't. In Alaska, it voted for Donald Trump by 14.5%, by 10.1, but 14.5% to the right of the nation, so that is a likely state, even with Kamala's 1.5% lead nationwide. Let's now move to likely Democratic states. So we will go first to Colorado, which voted for Biden by 13.5. So this was 9 points to the right of the nation. To the left of the nation. So when you add now Kamala Harris's 1.5% lead in the polls nationwide, that gives you somewhere around an 11-point victory for Kamala Harris in Colorado. You've got New Mexico voted for Biden by 10.8. That was 5.5% to the right of the nation. Add in Kamala's 1.5, another likely state for Kamala Harris. You've got New Hampshire voted for Biden by 7.4. That is 3 points to the left of the nation. You add in Kamala Harris's 4.5, and that 1.5. That gives Kamala Harris a 4.5% lead in New Hampshire, making it a lean state for her. So that one's pretty close now. Then you've got Maine at large, voted for Biden by 9.1. That was 4.5% to the left of the nation. you give Kamala Harris her 1.5%. That gives her a 6-point victory in Maine, which is definitely what they like to see. You've got Virginia, vote for Biden by 10.1. That is 5.5% to the left of the nation. And then you give Kamala Harris 1.5%. That's her lead nationwide. And that creates a 7-point victory in Virginia. So Democrats are back. This is exactly what they want to see on the electoral map. Yeah, they're definitely pretty back. So that leaves us with only a few battleground states left. You've got Minnesota, which voted for Biden by 7.1%. That one is just 2.6% to the left of the nation. You give Kamala her 1.5%. That's a 4.1% victory in Minnesota. Now I guess we'll go to Nebraska's. No, we'll leave Nebraska second. Now we're going to move on to Donald Trump in North Carolina. He won the state by 1.3% in the 2020 election. That was, 5.8% to the right of the nation. You subtract 1.5%. That gives Kamala Harris Donald Trump a 4.3% lead in North Carolina at this moment. So Democrats do want to win North Carolina. They know it's not in their favor right now. Much more competitive for Biden, but that really isn't a great number for Democrats right now, considering that they do want it competitive enough to, try to make a move in the state and win it. So now let's move on to Nebraska's 2nd district. Joe Biden won it by 6.6% in the 2020 election, which was 2 points to the left of the nation. You add in Kamala Harris's 1.5% lead nationwide, which creates a 3.5% victory in Nebraska's 2nd district for Kamala Harris. So now we're left with our 6 core battleground states. That's Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. Donald Trump has 235 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 226. We will start with the state of Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, Joe Biden won it by 0.6% in 2020. That was 3.8% to the right of the nation. Joe Biden still won it, but he won it by less than the margin of the popular vote that he also won. So 3.8% to the right of the nation. Kamala Harris now leads the popular vote by 1 point. The nationwide vote, that's the nation, by 1.5%. So we are looking at a 2-point victory, just about, for Donald Trump in Wisconsin. That's a flip that Donald Trump desperately needs right now in this election. We've got Michigan. Joe Biden won it by 2.8%, which is 1.7% to the right of the nation. Because again, it's a smaller margin of victory for Biden than was the popular vote. So 1.7% to the left of the nation, to the right of the nation. Kamala Harris leads the popular vote by 1.5. So that means that Donald Trump wins Michigan by 0.2%. But, that almost guarantees his victory right there, because now he's at 260. He only needs 1, besides Nevada, to win the election. Pennsylvania, Georgia, or Arizona. Let's see if Kamala Harris can win them. Let's move on now to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania went to Biden by 1.2%. That is 3.3% to the right of the nation. And of course, subtracting Kamala Harris's popular vote margin right now, that leaves the Republicans with a 1.7% victory in Pennsylvania, and that hands them 19 more electoral votes, which is the presidency. But still, let's move on. We've got Georgia, which voted for Biden by 0.2%, which is 4.3% to the right of the nation. Of course, when you add Kamala Harris's, subtract Kamala Harris's lead nationwide, that is about a 2.8% victory for Republicans in Georgia. So that's their 4th flip in the row. Let's see if they could do a clean sweep with the battleground states. Then there's Arizona. Biden won it by 0.3%, which is about 4.2% to the right of the nation. Of course, you add on subtract Kamala Harris's lead of 1.5%. And that gets you about a 3.2% or something lead. But regardless, it is a lean margin. And then finally, we have Nevada. Biden won it by 2.4%. That is, let's see, that's about 2.1% to the right of the nation. You subtract Kamala Harris's, current national lead of 1.5%. That leaves Trump with a 0.6% lead in Nevada, handing him victory in the state, and he does a clean sweep with the battleground states. He wins 312 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 226. So the point is, even though Kamala Harris does lead in the popular vote, that does not by any means mean that she is winning the election. She has to get her numbers there up there in the popular vote, but she is surging. I expect her to gain a pretty good lead. In the popular vote, considering the surge that she is on right now, I think that, really the events and everything that are yet to occur, like the DNC, the debates, the VP announcement, all of that will only help Kamala Harris, and, it's already passed for Trump, and he hasn't seen much of a gain from it. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.